How do you think tariffs are going to work? What's he going to do? Is he going to fire
I mean, like,
away
there's like a good
or?
50% chunk of me that believes that there's no way. I'm hoping there's enough people next to him that tell him like, hey, this would be like a horrible idea, and then he won't do it.
Well, if he's self-interested, he would hold off, because
the idea that he would not do tariffs because he knows it's bad, I don't think he knows it's bad. I think he might genuinely think it's like a hammer that can fix every single fucking problem.
Last I heard, they want at least some of it to go through before the end of January, which is quite quick. As far as what you can do, I think with executive action, you can tariff, 15% if you say there's a national security issue, and the rest would all have to be an act of Congress. But
And the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is a bipartisan outfit, put out some predictions the other day. If you add up all the promises you've made, and your plans would add $7.5 trillion to the debt. That's more than twice the total for Vice President Harris. You're on course to push up debt up to 150% of GDP. This is a very business-like audience.
Yeah.
Why should they trust you with that?
Because we're about growth. She's got no growth whatsoever, and we're all about growth. We're going to bring companies back to our country. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA. We're going to protect those companies with strong tariffs, because I'm a believer in tariffs. I'm not sure that you are. I don't think you are, but I congratulate you on your career. But to me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff. And it's my favorite word.
For a moment. Let's just talk about that for a moment with all sincerity.
Sure.
What problem does tariffs try to address, Stephen?
In Donald Trump's world, or what? That's a very general question.
Objective speaking, when you look at tariffs, what does it try to solve for?
Tariffs can be levied for a variety of different reasons. The two most common reasons that are given is that, one, it can be foolishly employed to try to protect an industry. So you would tariff other people to make your own industries more competitive. These require across-the-board tariffs, so not specific ones. And then a second reason could be for issues relating to, say, like national security. So, for instance, I want to tariff these people's abilities to manufacture microchips or steel, not because I think we'll be economically better off, but because if we get into war with them, I don't want to be relying on them for process.
I think the latter case makes a lot of sense, by the way. If you get to war with China, now listen.
Although I would be honest about the latter one and say we don't do it for economic reasons, we do it for security reasons.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. And I agree with you on that. Why can't we put in place a deterrent that says, look, if you're going to rig the system against American workers, we are going to level the playing field. We got a real problem in this country, by the way.
If this was, hold on, real quick.
Stephen, I want to just, Stephen.
You asked me a question. You asked me a question. Whatever economic plan or whatever you're talking about using tariffs, sure, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Whatever you're saying, that was nothing to do with the Trump administration. What you're saying is you're talking about getting into a tariff war to try to bring tariffs down, or to force somebody to engage in negotiations to bring tariff down in order to re-enter trade agreements. Kind of like when Donald Trump renegotiated NAFTA into the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement, right?
And
but
you know
however,
but
you can't just say
Stephen,
Donald Trump doesn't say
the threat of tariffs
that's great,
to bring them
but
to the
Donald
negotiating
Trump is not
table.
talking about using tariffs to get more people to negotiate. He wants to create an autarky. That's his goal. Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump wants us to manufacture everything at home? That's all of his rhetoric. Do you acknowledge? He doesn't say it. Okay.
No, Stephen, just one second.
Yeah.
He wants us to employ the working men and women of this country to give them a fair shot.
Our unemployment
we're losing
is already
100,000
less than
people to
5%.
opioids every year. We're losing 900 people.
What?
Stephen, just one sec.
Yeah.
Stephen.
Do you think that we can manufacture every single good we
No,
consume
I
at
don't
home?
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
The United States is also outperforming every single other G7 OECD country when it comes to metrics like inflation and how our economy is doing as well. So I think we probably made the right choice there, right? When we look at just for inflation, everything that Donald Trump talks about when he wants to come back in his next term seems like things that would just be inflationary. He wants to tariff everything.
Well, he wants to drill more, which will lower the price of everything.
We already are a world producer in energy. I don't know how much drilling more is going to help. But I mean, he also I don't even know how we'll have the people to drill, because he wants to increase tariffs on every single product in the world.
Well, just stuff made out of America.
What?
Which will benefit the American
Yeah, but if
people.
it's made out of America, then what? Then who's going to be drilling when we're all busy like making clothes and making shoes and making the most basic fundamental products?
Well, not all of us, obviously. Stuff still will come from overseas.
Why? He wants to tariff all of it at 50 to 1,000%.
Nah, he didn't say 1,000. He said 100.
He said a lot of numbers in that Bloomberg interview that he did yesterday. I think he said 1,000 for some of them.
Yeah,
but yeah, he says he wants to he said he wants to tariff everything. He said 10 or 20% was too low. He wants to manufacture everything at home.
And then when you
Because I told them, and I said it publicly, they're not going to sell one car into the United States. I said, if I run this country, if I'm going to be president of this country, I'm going to put a 100, 200, 2,000% tariff. They're not going to sell one car into the United States, because we're not going to destroy our country because I know you're an anti-tariff guy, but I'm the exact opposite. If I had There was no other way I could have stopped them other than, what am I going to do, negotiate with Mexico or China? You're not going to get anything from that. I said I'm going to put a 100, 200, or 300. I'm going to put the highest tariff in history, meaning I'm going to stop them from ever selling a car into the United States. So I just see the guy by accident. I see.
Do you know who negotiated the last massive trade deal that we have with Mexico? Does anybody know? Anybody want to take a guess? It was Donald Trump. It was the renegotiating of NAFTA into the US-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. So how can you sit here and talk about how much Mexico is fucking us over on car manufacturing and all these things? Lil bro, like 4 years ago, you renegotiated all of our trade.
They're not going to sell one car into the United States. I said, if I run...
So you're going to renege on your trade agreement that you just negotiated with one of our largest trading partners 4 years ago? What?
This country, if I'm going to be president of this country, I'm going to put a 100, 200, 2,000% tariff. They're not going to sell one car into the United States because we're not going to destroy our country. Because I know you're an anti-tariff guy.
She's trying to broaden it to a federal level. I don't know. In general, I don't like price controls. I think they're dog shit. Kamala's in the primary. Kamala ran as a pretty far left candidate. She was one of the further left candidates, I think. Kamala Harris is like her econ policy is probably going to be significantly to the left of what I would in an ideal world support. But the issue is that here's the issue though. Donald Trump is a populist, and populists will always lean into highly protectionist policies for their economy. So when Donald Trump wants to do commie things like tariffing all of our fucking imports, okay, or one of the largest reasons to bar or restrict immigration is to protect our local job markets, or the refusal to import certain goods and services and only manufacture them at home. These are planned economy ideas. These are commie ideas to some extent. And conservatives would support that. We don't have an economically conservative right to fight with the economically whatever the fuck the left is. Kamala's policies are probably significantly left. I'm probably going to over the course of the next couple months, as things are unveiled, I'll probably disagree with a lot of Kamala's more left policies. Do you want to go over some of these? Apparently Trump posted Agenda 47.
Oh.
This is how we will ensure a great education for every American child. And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work it needs back to the states. We want them.
We're closing the Department of Education. So that means no more student loans. That means no more Pell Grants. That means no more, like...
States' rights, but also we're going to do...
Yeah, where are they going to get the fucking funding for that? States are fucked. Okay, well, go to college now. Good luck.
Just as we took down ISIS and the ISIS caliphate, and just as, unlike the situation we're in today, we had a very, very strong border, the strongest border, in fact, in the history of our country, and drugs were at a low of 45 years. There's been nothing like what we did just 2 years ago. We will show no mercy on the card.
Like, remember, everything was at an all-time low at the end of his presidency. Yes, there was COVID. Like, yes, people weren't immigrating illegally. Well, people weren't immigrating, period, because people were getting sick, people weren't doing anything, and you had Title 42 to help you because of COVID. So he wants credit for things that he did under COVID when it helps, but then he wants to blame COVID when it didn't help. It's so...
Cartels. Every day, drug traffickers are using the waters of our region to ship their lethal poisons to America, killing so many of our people and ruining families. We have to take over. We have to be tough. We have to be smart. We have to be fair. But if we don't do something immediately, our country is gone.
Gone.
Apparently that's an old video.
A lot of these are like from 2023, apparently.
Yeah.
And they're all hosted on Rumble. Nice.
I love Vivek Ramaswamy. I've never heard him say anything incredibly stupid. He wants to get rid of the Department of Education.
He's an idiot.
Why is that a bad policy?
And we're going to break this down, okay? Just hearing his summary here, I would never trust this guy to tell me a single true fact in the history of all of anything he would ever talk about. The fact that he's not mentioning that this was a recent law passed by Congress that dictated in the law that funds can't go to things that enable students to train with weapons. The fact that this wasn't just a random rule that came from the executive, but it came after a new law was passed by Congress, and that Congress even passed another law to change it. He makes it sound like, wow, the Department of Education is just telling kids they can't even learn archery for no reason. That's evil and horrible.
I don't think it's the federal government's job to withhold funding from a school because they include something in their curriculum that the federal government deems inappropriate.
So the federal government didn't deem it inappropriate. The Congress did. I don't know if he doesn't know how the three branches of government work. I don't know if he's completely and totally ignorant on every function of the government. The federal government, the executive branch, cannot make decisions on its own about laws. They can only make decisions about rules which come from laws. And this rule did come from a law that was passed by the legislature, by Congress.
I'm much more vibes-based. Like you said, oh, he's obviously just like maliciously lying. It's like, really? Because that's not at all the intuition I get.
Well, my issue is,
I'm
how
not
could he have known so much about this particular thing without knowing the actual facts around it? How did he not know that? How did he not know that this wasn't actually a fault of the Department of Education? This was a fault of congressional legislation. How does he not mention that a single time?
Maybe he's a psychopath.
Were hysterical. We had to repurpose DOD funds and say the border is actually a national security issue if you've got terrorists coming across the border. We had to repurpose national security funds to build the border and buy the steel to build the wall. That took us over a year.
Then it seems like you need a candidate besides Trump, because Trump wasn't able to get anything done when he was president. You just said it yourself that Trump had to repurpose DOD funds to do it. Trump had a larger margin in Congress. Trump had all three branches of government and accomplished less than Biden did when it came to legislation, when it came to the border, when it came to infrastructure, when it came to foreign policy, when it came to almost every single aspect of running this country. And Trump was the one that came in saying, I'm the business guy. I can bring people together. I can get these things done because I know how to get people to work together.
The immigration issue, the illegal immigration issue, seems to be much, much worse under President Biden. Would you agree with that?
Yes, we're facing unique issues right now, yeah.
So why would you want to re-elect a man who has allowed this many illegal immigrants?
I think for America, I think we generally agree on most things for what the immigration policy should look like. The problem is we have a very unique problem right now at the border relating to asylum seeking, and the federal government's hands are tied in terms of how you can deal with those people. So with the way that the law works right now, if you're an illegal immigrant and you come up to the border, you see that like the encounters have gone up dramatically. Well, so is the actual catch rate of people coming in. Like, not that many people are sneaking past the border guards. The reason why is because you don't have to actually sneak into the country anymore. You just have to show up between a port of entry, or maybe even at a port of entry now, and go, hey, I'm here to seek asylum. And once you've done that, they have to take you in. They have to process you because of how the federal laws on the books are right now. And they have to process you because of how the federal laws on the books are right now.
Wait, I need to check this out because I said or, because I don't remember exactly. Can you seek asylum between ports of entry? Okay, between ports of entry. Actually, this might be in my notes somewhere. Let me check real quick. Wait. Search. Grounds for refugees. They can apply at a port of entry at the time they seek admission or within 1 year of arriving. Okay, so they can literally just come to... They can literally just come to up to the normal border guard and say, hey, I want to seek asylum. Okay, yes, all right. Which is a huge problem, by the way, because then you have to process them as asylees.
And then because we don't have enough judges to actually go through all the cases, you're given basically a slip. You're saying, hey, please show up for your trial. And then you basically release them into the country. One of the things that would have been nice is it would have actually placed a cap on the amount of people that were coming in and claiming asylum. That 5,000 per day would have said that once we hit this cap, we are not processing anybody else. You could have the most legitimate asylum claim in the world, and we would not allow you into this country, which was already about to be challenged by a ton of legal people around the United States. And I think the international, there were international bodies as well, because whether or not you can cap asylum seekers is still an internationally debated topic, but that is what that legislation seeks to do.
Right. You can't just turn up to the border of Russia or China and like walk in and then be like, oh, can I please? That's not how it works. It's not, look, the idea that a country has a border has not been controversial for
nobody disagrees with this. These are such boring talking points. We need a border. Yeah, who are the open borders people? The 21-year-old white kids that all are identifying as Palestinian on college campuses? Nobody is pro open borders in the US. No people in Congress, no presidents, like even the majority of the Democratic Party. Nobody's open borders. There's a meme. There's a meme position.
Administration. For the first time in our history, we were net exporters of energy. Think about what that does for the lifeblood.
I don't know what people get this. I don't know where they get this talking about from. I don't even know like I don't know where this idea that we're not producing energy or not producing oil or whatever like comes from. Like our exports are at like all-time highs right now. Our production is at all-time highs right now. Like our imports are at all-time lows right now. And the U.S. today is like doing more like oil exporting than we ever have. Like, and our energy production is higher than it ever has been. It's just wrong. You're just wrong. You're factually incorrect.
We were net exporters of energy. Think about what that does for the lifeblood. An economy requires energy. I know it's a scary, evil thing for the left.
I feel like it's one of the few times you can ask for a source without sounding like an autist. No, well, I like having people to fact check in a debate. That actually feels really good. What debate did I do where they did that? It wasn't with Emily and Ryan, right? Ryan, it's funny because Trump says I ran on immigration because we had problems with the wall. That's not true. Even on Trump's own little stupid chart that he posts, Obama was posting better immigration numbers than he was. So Obama was doing better than Trump on immigration. Trump wants to say it's not fair to count the last year or two, of my administration because COVID messed everything up, but he sure does want to take credit for the lowered immigration numbers under COVID. And then you saw them start to spike back up, even though he allowed on his chart for when he was actually out of office. They were spiking up almost to all-time highs right before he left office. So clearly Donald Trump wasn't capable of managing anything at the border. And when Democrats did,
my next claim is that Harris would be a better president for immigration and the border than Donald Trump. Oh, hey, what's up?
Long time no see.
Yeah.
All right, so why would Kamala Harris be better than Trump on immigration?
Because I don't know if Trump even knows what's actually wrong with the border.
He doesn't know what do you mean by that?
I think that Republicans don't know what is happening right now with the problems with their immigration system. A lot of people think that the issue is with illegal immigration. It's not. The problem is that our asylum process is completely and totally broken right now. And the problem is the only way to rectify that is to change the laws governing, or at least some of the regulations governing the asylum process. But as it stands right now, you could have the biggest, strongest wall in the world with the best guns and all the people manning it. It would make zero difference on illegal immigration. They would still come up and claim asylum, and there's nothing you'd be able to do about it.
So do you think there's problems with illegal and illegal? That's what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, it's different classifications of immigrants, but like asylum seekers aren't technically illegal immigrants, even though Republicans call them that. When they're doing the asylum seeking process and millions of people are here waiting to hear their case, technically that's all legal, which is an issue. Which turns me back to my other question. If people are doing this by abusing the asylum process, it feels like a bill would have helped, and Donald Trump has done nothing.
Because before we can have any type of bill that basically funnels down asylum versus gotaways versus give up versus criminals versus all that, you need to have a secure border.
Yeah, but let's say right now,
that was not going to help.
Let's say you secure the border 1 trillion, feet tall on the wall and everything.
Okay.
Everybody else comes up and they still do the exact same asylum claiming process.
What do you mean everybody comes up?
As in you go to a port of entry and you say, hey, I'm here to claim asylum. And
I was excited like how you were excited that Corey was shot.
You're excited. You are excited when a person dies to an illegal immigrant, but when something goes to get done about it, you champion Trump when he blocks the bill.
The bill was a bad bill, period.
That's it. Really, what legislation did Donald Trump pass in his 4 years as president?
He had closed borders. He had the Remain in Mexico Act.
That doesn't sound like a bill. Remain in Mexico, by the way, was responsible for keeping like 10,000 immigrants away a year, which is basically nothing. Title 42 is COVID. He gets no credit for that. Next.
Title 42 allowed law enforcement.
Title 42 is gone. There's no COVID.
It wasn't COVID specific.
What do you think Title 42 was?
Title 42 allowed law enforcement to process illegals that were coming through.
Is that like it would have passed? People like McConnell, people like Cruz are literally saying like we're not voting on this bill because Donald Trump has told us to pull the plug on it. But the idea was that it was going to pass.
So what would that bill have done to deter the fraudulent asylum claims that are keeping out legitimate folks who are fleeing persecution?
Well, I think that right now the biggest, there's an amalgamation of laws that make it so that because the asylum system is so backed up, I know that if I go to the United States, even if my claim is total bullshit, I can run to a port, claim that I'm an asylum seeker, and I know that they can't process me right now, so I get a slip saying, okay, we'll come back to court in a year or two, and it's like, I'm in, and you're done. At that point, you just disappear, right? But if they could process you almost immediately, you show up and you're like, hey, I'm a asylum seeker. It's like, oh, cool, we'll come talk to the judge. You're like, okay, well, fuck me. Then the motivation to come in and try to get in fraudulently that way, I think dramatically decreases. And one of the big things that the bill helped with was providing a lot more judges that would be allocated for these things and a lot more funding for it, et cetera.
So just to
act of doing all of these things be if it is done as he wants it to be done right away?
It would be terrible. I mean, all of the things that are his priorities,
I love this
whether
person.
it's global tariffs, deporting 10 to 20 million people, politicizing the Fed, devaluing the dollar, all of those things would be inflationary and or cause the economy to crash. I think the very best thing Trump could do is nothing at all. Go out, play golf, take credit for the economic trends that we already have. They're already quite strong. Wages have been outpacing inflation for over a year, for example. Inflation has come down a lot. GDP growth has been robust quarter after quarter. Just take credit. Take credit for the economy he inherited and do nothing else, and that's the best possible outcome we can hope for.
Stealing my talking points. That's a stealth DGGer.
Wow.
Improperly placing the blame for bad economic policy on a Democrat and further reinstating this idea that Republicans are actually good at the economy. Like, what do you do then?
I mean, like, people just don't know how economics works. That is what should happen. The one lady, I should remember her name. It's so insulting that I don't. I mean, I don't remember anybody's name, but she was absolutely right. Like, if Donald Trump was intelligent, he would do nothing because, again, a Democrat has set a conservative up to have an amazing economy.
Yeah.
The United States is outperforming every other country in the world, basically, economically. We're doing fantastic compared to the rest of the world when it comes to things like inflation. He just got so much major legislation passed that Trump wanted to pass but couldn't. Things like the infrastructure bill, the IRA, like all this shit. Like, he's got so much, and inflation has come under control. The Fed is starting to reduce rates now. Like, if Donald Trump just sits back and does nothing, all of these conservatives who are complaining about prices and everything are all going to be saying, like, wow, like, Donald Trump saved us. Like, that's so amazing. Same thing when Trump came in after Obama and the economy continued to run well.
Brag about how much is getting built.
Probably, yeah. Catherine Rempel, yeah. If unemployment were bad instead, you'd be saying the macro thing about how important unemployment is instead of inflation. No, because the difference is that unemployment can go away and cumulative effects of inflation can't really. Remember, inflation is a derivative. We're talking about a rate of change, whereas unemployment is like the actual static figure itself. The thing is, I think that if you have 10% unemployment and then you go to 5% unemployment, people forget about the unemployment. But if you gain a lot of inflation and then the rate of inflation drops, you still have the cumulative effects of it. I wonder if there's like a long-term negative feeling about that.
Yeah, like,
even on Joe Rogan, on Ben Shapiro, like every single one of these on Tim Pool, Candace Owens, all of these people, and ask them, are illegal immigrants hurting American jobs right now? All of them would say yes and give you reasons why, even though the data doesn't support that at all, right? Or how many people that I've argued with where, like, it's just so funny. You can, like, this talking point of like 30,000 murderers or whatever came in illegally, and then you just ask them, hold on, they came in illegally? Yeah. We're not tracking anybody at the border, right? Yeah. How do you know that there were 30,000 people that came in illegally if you're not tracking any of them?
Yeah.
Because you said you don't do background check, and it's just like they have no answer. Like, the answers are obviously nonsense. But if you go into the real world now, one thing you have to consider, and nobody will follow me on this intuitively because it's impossible to, and it feels bad, but you really have no idea what's going on outside. Like, if I tell you right now there are 20 million Ecuadorians storming the border, climbing over like it's a zombie apocalypse movie, maybe there are, maybe there aren't. If I tell you there were 1 million jobs last year to illegals, maybe there were, maybe there weren't. What if I tell you 10 million jobs were created by illegal? You have no idea. Right. So you can say they're blown out of proportion, but look at how people feel. Well, why do they feel that way, right? The election fraud stuff is a really good example of that, right? Like, there was no election fraud widespread in 2020. It didn't happen. It's like, okay, well, all these people feel that there was. Yeah, that's because of what you told them. Okay, but look at all the things they saw. Yeah, because you were showing them those things. And now we know through court documents and filings that most of those things were completely and totally fabricated. They were just invented. So you have a population that legitimately feels a thing, and that feeling is real, but it's based on a perception of reality that was put in front of them by other people that are now appealing to the real feelings that these people had about the perception of reality that they created. And this you have a population that legitimately feels a thing, and that feeling is real, but it's based on a perception of reality that was put in front of them by other people that are now appealing to the real feelings that these people had about the perception of reality that they created. And this environment cannot endure.
Right. So do you think
Hey, Steven.
Micah. Okay, I want to talk about the alternate slate of electors and how historically that has happened before on the Democrat side. Yes, it has. In 1960, JFK against Nixon ran an alternate slate of electors in case it was overturned in Hawaii.
Glad you bring this up real quick, because this is one of the biggest piece of shit talking points that you guys always bring up, and I don't know why. In 1960, two slates of electors were authorized by the state legislature. Both were granted the certificate of ascertainment from the governor because they knew that it was a very close election and they'd authorized a recount, and because that recount was going to go past the some mid-December date. It's December 14th for the 2020 election, but some mid-December date for when they had to certify their vote. So they said, okay, well, we'll send in both certificates, and then on the day of the counting, on January, whenever they would have done the certification in Congress, then they can choose which one was authorized by the state legislature based on the results of the recount. Donald Trump's certificates were not authorized by any state legislature.
Well,
do you acknowledge that? Wait, real quick. Do you acknowledge real quick that none of the 7 slates that were submitted by Donald Trump, none of those were authorized by any state legislature?
Can I answer? They weren't certified, and why? It's because fraud wasn't found. It wasn't proven in court.
No, you're
So that's
lying.
fine.
You're lying. They
Wait,
weren't
so
authorized.
you're saying fraud was found?
No, you're lying because those legislatures.
Wait, what do you say I'm lying about?
They're lying because none of those alternate slates were arranged by the state legislatures. They were arranged by Trump and his criminal co-conspirators. None of the state legislatures, none of the state governors authorized those slates of electors.
Okay, what's wrong with that?
It's illegal, number one, and number two.
What law says that?
You want me to give you the specific statutes in Georgia, Arizona, New Jersey? I don't know them off the top of my head. If you want, you can.
Okay, so then that's a baseless claim.
It's not a baseless claim.
Yeah,
Chesbro,
it is.
Chesbro and Eastman
You can't
and
provide
Epstein
me a
all
specific
engaged
law.
because I can't give you the state statute.
Yeah, if you can't give me a specific law, then why should I believe you? There's no justification for that. Of course, there's laws that are involved, but you can't point to the specific law that says that is.
I don't know the numbers.
And so your
of
claim
them.
is baseless.
It's always crazy to see that you guys will carry water. Even Trump's own people don't deny this because they know that they're dead to rights because the emails have leaked, the conversations have leaked, the Twitter posts are there that we can see from their accounts.
No.
Really, what did I just say that was wrong? What one thing that I just said that was incorrect?
You're
I can
getting
name three
upset
things.
because I'm pressing you on.
No, I'm not.
point.
You're not pressing me
yeah.
at all.
Yeah, you're getting upset,
floundering.
dude.
You're like a magic carp. You
See,
have no idea what you're talking about.
You know that. So for those fake slates, there's like the fake slates have been filled out. All of that information is publicly viewable. That Trump's campaign, that Eastman, Chesbro, and people working for Trump, Giuliani, were trying to organize, or they successfully organized fake electors in 7 different states to get them sent to Congress. That was the whole point of January 6th to stop the steal, was to get Pence to choose the fake electors, or to just reject all the votes because there's competing elector slates.
I know nothing about that story at all.
Okay, well, let's say theoretically, let's say that was true, and he wanted Pence to choose the fake elector slates, and then he also sent a huge riot down to the Capitol to try to encourage Pence to do the right thing. Does it seem more likely that violence might have been like a part of the strategy to pressure the politicians there into choosing the fake elector slates?
I mean, if we're talking about, a dragon could have come and landed on the Capitol.
None of this is contested, right? Like, this is all in open
told you,
court.
I know
Like, people
nothing
have
about
been...
it. But like none of that has
January
anything to do with
4th, Donald
inciting
Trump
violence.
tweets out, how can you certify an election when the numbers being certified are verifiably wrong? You will see the real numbers tonight during my speech, but especially on January 6th. Hashtag March for Trump. Hashtag Stop the Steal. Hashtag Do Not Certify.
What about that? How is that telling people to go violently raid the Capitol?
On January 1st, retweeting, the cavalry is coming, Mr. President. Hashtag March for Trump. Hashtag Stop the Steal. The slogan is "Be there, will be wild." January 6th. What are they doing?
He's promoting a protest
for the certification of the vote.
Right.
January
violence, it's not there. It's just not there.
But it literally is. Donald Trump
not.
had fake elector slates made. He was trying to pressure Pence to accept these fake electors from these states, and violence was part of the way to pressure people in Congress to not certify the vote, or to pressure Pence to...
Do you think, this is a little bit off topic, that's a nice piece back there, the shotgun. You shoot clay?
Yeah, skated trap, depending on what's near me. But
where do you live?
Miami Beach.
Oh, that is not what I would have guessed. I went to UFC 287 in Miami. And
but the subverting the democratic process, fighting against like every single branch of government, saying you're going to be a dictator on day one. How do you feel when he says he has a right to suspend the Constitution to look for voter fraud?
I don't know about that. Let me ask you this: Do you think that it was a reasonable conclusion that his supporters had that there might have been widespread shenanigans in the swing states?
No,
given the
this was
circumstances?
fabricated, made by Donald Trump's campaign. And every single one of these major claims was a total and absolute lie. And you can follow the genesis of them all the way to the culmination. And it always ends with people like Giuliani or Powell or Fox News saying, we lied about this. That's why Fox News lost their Dominion lawsuit. That's why Giuliani and Sidney Powell said they lied and they settled with the states that they were fighting with. All of them did. Every single one. That's why he lost 62 out of 63 of his court cases.
I'm not talking about those guys. I'm saying
and I thought, it was the end of the world. Something had to happen. We had to do something. And obviously it wasn't the end of the world. The sky didn't fall. And now, I have a felony and I can only have certain jobs. I lost my job. I was making $100,000 a year. So I've had to really reevaluate what I believe in.
Okay. And then I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. And then the second thing Just if you have time, maybe it would take you a total of 10 minutes. I know exactly which State Farm videos that you're talking about. I think her name is Jackie Deason or Jackie Dean or Deason, I think, Deacon. She's the one that did the presentation that you probably saw in OAN videos showing how the mysterious ballots were pulled from under the table that showed up. The first video that I linked is timestamped when she's going through that. If you watch that video, listen to her presenting that to the state legislature, she tells them to skip ahead 20, 30, 40 minutes. Like, she'll tell them to skip ahead. And in those 20, 30, 40 minutes, the ballot boxes were, because they thought they were going home, they just packaged the ballots, they put them in the boxes, and they slid them under the tables. Everybody knew where they came from, including Giuliani's team who was presenting it. The next video that I link is just, you can scroll through these Vimeo videos. They're all the security footage from the State Farm Arena. Just go to 1 hour and like 2 minutes, and you can watch in all 4 of these videos, the ballots are put in the boxes, they'd already been counted and certified, and they were just put under tables. That's where all of that came from.
Okay, so you're saying that that was like a very propaganda from the right wing to try to make them believe that Trump had the lost the election due to like illegal.
Yes, yeah. It was explicitly a lie from the very beginning. No part of them actually believed that it happened. Yeah.
At that point, should he not have realized, like, well, okay, maybe
that's not. I think he should have realized the day of the election that he lost the election, but that's not. But that's
sure. But I'm just asking.
I'm saying. I just said if Destiny's videos show that the ballot box thing is a lie from that side, then yeah, they should go to jail, in my opinion, for lying that way and manipulating video. I think that people that do that are affecting elections. That's
to be clear, that's Donald Trump, and then the people working for him, all under his direction.
Well, I mean, if you can prove that, then yeah, I agree Trump should be charged for things like that, not what they've been trying to get him on.
That's part of what he's charged for in Georgia, where the RICO case is, and in the Jack Smith case. Yeah.
Stephen's characterization, I don't even think is widely disputed. I don't even think that Trump people would dispute it. I mean, no one.
Well, hold on, wait. I'm sorry, just to be a little stronger on that. They don't dispute it. Giuliani admitted that he lied. He said he had a First Amendment right to lie, and then he lost that defamation case for $148 million. Sidney Powell also said that she lied. She paid restitution to the state of Georgia. So they do say this. Everybody involved.
Yeah, and they should do that on both sides. They should hold people accountable on both sides.
There's absolutely nothing even remotely close to this on the left.
Well, that's a different conversation, I guess.
Sure. Can you give me your strongest example of what would be similar to?
Do I have an example of someone on the left lying to that degree?
Yes.
Is what you're saying?
Yeah, or close to that degree, like a lawmaker or
that would be a characteristic of belief, because I do believe that, because I don't believe that people like for foreign entities should be able to pay and affect opinions.
And wait. So what's the example? What's the example of a person left lying like that?
When you have I wouldn't have a direct one that comes to mind right now. I'd have to look, but
roads lead to the Rome policy.
Literally, no matter what, right? Because if Biden would have won, or I'm sorry, if Harris would have won this time, it would be a rigged election.
Well, they were preparing for that. You saw fucking Twitter when all these fucking videos were going up above, here's some irregular activity at this polling station.
Twitter, Trump. It was Donald Trump that was truthing that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just so he was literally saying, because I remember we saw a tweet or a truth early on in the night where he was saying weird behavior observed at Philadelphia, calling the cops now. Like, yeah, they were already. A lot of talk about massive cheating in Philadelphia, law enforcement coming. Like, he's just lying. Philadelphia and Detroit, heavy law enforcement. Like, he's just making shit up. It's so good. So good. All right, hold on. I'm a very independent person from my family, from communities, everything else. I'm my own online politically. So I have the flexibility and freedom. I can have whatever opinion I want. I think that Rittenhouse should have walked. I thought that was totally fair. I think that January 6th was an insurrection. That was insane. I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, and I'm a big First Amendment supporter. Like, there's a lot of opinions that I have, but I have no social pressure on me in terms of like people that would disown me for something, right? But there might be a person where I might make the most compelling
report and 16 and Russian collusion, and why didn't that land?
So I will say, because it's on my docket of things to do, but probably once the election season ends, I want to read through that full Mueller report, because I haven't. I've read a lot of like executive summaries and other parts and pieces of it, but it's like a dude with a black profile pic who's saying things like, Hillary doesn't stand for Black America, and it's like, they're running these accounts. There was a protest that was called out in the Mueller indictment where Russians had organized both sides of the protest with Americans that had no idea who they were dealing with. We also found out through indictments now. None of these people answered to anything, and Trump pardoned all of them. But like Roger Stone,
In an indictment, he was communicating directly with Julian Assange and was coordinating leaks from WikiLeaks over the Russian DNC hacks.
Yeah.
And he was coordinating that with the Trump campaign. This is like all came out in indictments, and it's like there for everybody to read. But people hear Russia again, they just think, oh, all of it's fake bullshit. And it's like, and
listen to what he just said.
Harris got like 3 times the money Trump did? Yeah, exactly.
Harris just got 3 times the money Trump did.
It's pay to win? Yeah.
It's pay to win, yeah. Those two statements directly contradict each other. This is emotivism. We're just saying things that are pegged to an emotion. None of it like logically makes sense.
This is the story of how the world's richest person, the owner of Tesla.
Is this cringe or?
April 14, 2022. Elon Musk makes an unsolicited offer to buy Twitter for $44 billion. He claims the site has become politically skewed and says, for Twitter to deserve public trust, it must be politically neutral. October 27th, the deal goes through. The next evening, a far-right conspiracy theorist breaks into the San Francisco home of Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, intending to kidnap her. Pelosi is away, but the man attacks her husband Paul, hitting him repeatedly on the head with a hammer. Paul Pelosi escapes with his life, but requires surgery for a fractured skull. The new owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, posts a tweet sharing an entirely false claim that Paul Pelosi was in fact injured in a drunken fight with a male prostitute with whom he was involved. December 16th, having claimed he's a free speech absolutist, Musk bans @ElonJet, a Twitter account that tracks the movements of his private jet using publicly available data. Musk also bans the accounts of a number of journalists who have written about @ElonJet. February 12th, 2023. Ahead of the Super Bowl, both Musk and President Joe Biden tweet their support for the Philadelphia Eagles. Biden's tweet is seen 29 million times. Musk's just 9.
Is this confirmed 100%? This story is crazy if this is actually true.
Philadelphia Eagles. Biden's tweet is seen 29 million times. Musk's just 9 million times. Incensed, Musk leaves the game early and calls an impromptu meeting of Twitter engineers at 2:36 a.m. Their job? To change the Twitter algorithm to artificially inflate the reach of Musk's tweets by a factor of 1,000, making him the preeminent presence on the site.
Now I'm getting fucking. Look! 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 Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
November 15th, in a post promoting the racist conspiracy theory that Jewish people are importing immigrants to America to fix elections for Democrats, one ex-user writes, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Musk replies saying, you have said the actual truth. In response, several advertisers, including Disney, Warner Brothers, and Comcast, paused their advertising on X. Musk then tells advertisers concerned by hate speech on the platform,
Go yourself.
So fucking soy. And then he files a lawsuit. Actually, I think that when the advertisers left, it's because they were colluding against me. Oh my god.
Is that clear?
Over subsequent months, Musk will become obsessed with the false claim that Democrats are allowing immigrants into America to create more Democratic voters, in effect, stealing the coming election, sharing the claim numerous times with his followers and pushing it to tens of millions more who choose not to follow him. July 14th, Musk calls Trump on behalf of J.D. Vance, urging Trump to select Vance as his running mate.
Wait, is that true? I actually didn't even know that. A day before Donald Trump's deadline to pick a running mate, after months of private conversations with every corner of his orbit, the former president took a call from a new voice. That person, Tesla billionaire Elon Musk, was one of several people urging Trump in the final moments to select Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. On Monday, Trump finally announced his choice. Vance would be his running mate.
Musk's phone call is part of a broad effort by Silicon Valley billionaires to ensure Vance is selected. The next day, Vance is unveiled as Trump's vice presidential candidate. September 6th, Trump says that if he wins, he will appoint Musk to head up a government efficiency commission.
And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force.
The idea came from Musk, whose companies are currently facing at least 20 federal investigations. If he gets the role, it would give the world's richest man the power to regulate the regulators who hold sway over his companies. Last year alone, his companies were promised $3 billion across nearly 100 different contracts with 17 federal agencies. September 9th, Musk spreads a conspiracy theory that immigrants in Ohio are eating people's pets. The following day, Trump repeats the slur during the presidential debate with Kamala Harris.
Is this not as close to an oligarchy as you could get in the U.S.? Yeah, all of these connections are crazy. Just the fact that Donald Trump was a real estate billionaire from New York who now has the help of the richest man in the world, who has purchased one of the largest social media brands in the world, who has used that social media brand to get Trump elected. Like, that in and of itself is just insane. Without getting into anything else that's openly known, and without getting into anything else that's been reported on behind the scenes. What do I have? Are these asthma suckers that are flooding my chat? Loving the conspiracies are okay if my name is Destiny and I'm a Democrat, or this is going to be awesome. Whole lot of bring on any of your little like dipshit heroes to chat with me. None of what I say, the difference between me and you is none of what I say is conspiracy. It's all in the open. It's all reported on, and I can cite and source every single thing. The difference between me and you is that you're going to give me some random story from like the Daily Post Inquirer saying that like one unnamed source like talked about how Hillary Clinton revealed to him in a dream that George Soros was putting bugs inside of the microchips that Bill Gates Gates was putting in your mRNA vaccines. Like, that's the difference.
Shares with his nearly 200 million followers on X that Trump must win to, quote, preserve freedom and meritocracy in America, and insinuates that it is suspicious that no one is even trying to assassinate Biden and Kamala, adding a thinking face emoji. The U.S. Secret Service confirms that it is aware of the post. Simultaneously, Musk is offering $100 to any Pennsylvania voter who signs his online petition.
That whole 100 million, oh, she's probably going to go into it, or whatever, this $1 million to voters, by the way, all of that was a fucking lie. That's the most pathetic fucking thing to me. These guys are like fighting for you. You think that, and then they're down your throat at the same time. This $1 million giveaway, I think somebody challenged this in court as like, well, this is illegal because it's a lottery. And they won that because they're like, well, actually, it's not a lottery because we're not choosing people at random. We're just giving it to basically insiders and people that we already like, which is what they did. They pre-approved people and then they gave it to people that were basically already working with them. Lawyers for America PAC and its director, Chris Jung, said the group doled out the funds based on who would be the best spokespeople for its pro-Trump agenda, despite the billionaire's assertion that winners could be chosen randomly. This is how they defended themselves in court. So a lawyer for Krasner's office said the admissions that the giveaway was not random made it not just an illegal lottery, but also a fraud. If their story is true, Summers said in his closing argument is one of the greatest scams of the last 50 years. Summers showed the court a clip of Musk at an October 19th Trump rally saying America PAC would randomly award $1 million to people who signed the petition. Jung said that he was surprised to hear Musk describe the giveaway as random at the rally.
October 19th, it's revealed that the Building America's Future PAC, another Musk-funded campaign group, is impersonating the Harris campaign by setting up a fake website containing fake policy positions, then sending out text messages driving voters to the fake site. October 25th, the Wall Street Journal reports that Musk has been in regular contact with Russian President Vladimir Putin since 2022. Musk has posted more than 3,000 times on X in the last month, including dozens of unfounded claims about the election which have been viewed hundreds of millions of times. Apart from Trump himself, Musk is now the single biggest spreader of election disinformation. November 5th, Trump wins the presidential election. Elon Musk, a far-right conspiracy theorist, has succeeded in using his immense wealth to help swing the election in favor of a convicted felon.
Based. President Jesus, yeah.
He was initially fairly supportive of Ukraine, but then within 6 months of apparently when he started talking to Putin, that's when he started offering the peace plan and making Putin arguments about why, like, well, we can't allow Starlink because they'll use it in Crimea and hit Russian military bases and risk nuclear war and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Like the woke scolding over everything, I think really hurts. I think the perception of like leftists or progressives or liberals being like super like fun-sucking losers is bad. And then like the constant demonization, especially of like white people and of men, was really cringe. That's why I thought that the white dudes for Harris, I thought that was actually a good idea. But I think the left has already kind of moved away, at least from the more extreme positions there. Now the left just needs to get better at incorporating more people into like the entertainment and stuff and then not come off as just so boring and soy. One of the problems too is that nobody on the left can even argue or talk about why any of the things that we advocate for are like good. Like every single thing comes off as like a punishment or comes off as like attacking or shitting on somebody, and it feels atrocious, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen in my debates recently, but I can make really strong, powerful arguments for taxation. Like the idea that I work a job and I can only do it because, you know, there are other people around me that are like, I can make these arguments really well. Most people talk about taxes like it's something to be suffered through or a punishment, and it's cringe and so stupid. And that applies to like so many different, like, why do we need to have black people here? Because they were enslaved or whatever. And it's like, no, that's so fucking retarded. We need to mobilize and deploy as much of our population as possible because we've got like talent amongst every group of people. I want like the most talented black people building our fucking missiles. I want the most talented women doing our computer programming. Like, this is why deploying all of our resources is the best, rather than having some country where half the women are enslaved, you know, in burqas and can't even contribute to science. Like, there are strong arguments for all these things, but the arguments that people on the even center left make for them, they all come off as like chastisement or things to be suffered through, which I think is like, it also hurts. It makes it like, fuck, like, oh God, I got to talk about politics. I time to like scold my audience into why they should be more accepting of, you know, whatever bullshit was back then. That was another issue too. Bernie Sanders attracted a lot of fans that were just populists. Liberals just haven't, liberalism like hasn't been defended well. And now that we don't have neocons anymore, like it's been completely abandoned, at least like in the media sphere.
What are your changes going forward? What are the big improvements?
I want to work more. I want to work in a more official capacity with the DNC. So I'm trying to reach out. If you're a DNC person, I've got a few emails. If you're a DNC person or if you have connections, shoot me an email. We can chat. I want to work with a more official capacity at DNC because I think they have a really poor understanding of the media landscape. I want to encourage the DNC and Democrats to stop working with people that don't support the party.
Do you think there's ever? I guess there has to be. The answer has to be yes. Otherwise, we're really cooked. But to de-radicalize people that have gone through these pipelines, Do you think that's a worthwhile adventure, or do you think it's better to just build completely new pipelines?
I don't know, when we say de-radicalize people, I don't know if we can even think about that anymore, because these are like huge chunks of the population. To call them radical almost seems contradictory, because radical usually implies like smaller sect. Like when you have a population where 50% of the population is radicalized, like I don't know if that even makes sense.
The Nazis weren't radical.
Yeah.
Destiny
I don't think it's
2024.
I don't think the obsession should be like on like pipelines or whatever else. It just has to be like a slow change in the culture, and it has to be a change from the top down and the bottom up. So top down as in when you have like the party needs to be supporting people that support the party. Like that's it. It has to like start and stop there. So there has to be like coordination from the top down on that. People who are working, large influencers like people like me, I already do this because I'm a god, but other people need to have zero tolerance for people that are just like completely and totally trash the party. Like that just can't be. These people on the right, they do this exceedingly well. And then from the bottom up, there needs to be way less tolerance for people who aren't supportive of your candidates. Like the whole right coalesced to bully the fuck out of Kyle Rittenhouse and Joe Rogan when they implied that they weren't. Well, Rittenhouse said he wasn't going to support Trump. He was supporting a libertarian even, right? Who's still ideologically pretty congruent-ish.
For a pretty logical reason.
Yeah, for a pretty logical
Trump
reason.
did the bump stock ban and obviously Ron
and
Paul
Joe
videos.
Rogan, when I don't think Joe Rogan said he was supporting anybody, but he kind of implied sort of that he liked RFK, and people they gathered around him, so much so that other Republican large media people were even saying like, well, I don't know if it's smart to attack Rogan, guys. And then Rogan fell in line. Like the right is so good about enforcing ideological homogeneity between all of their media people.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, left-wingers are good at that as well. They just don't direct people to the party.
Exactly, yeah. The left does this very well, but they don't direct them to candidates. It's just to these online ideologies. It's funny, actually. One day I'll get to the World War II arc. Wasn't Hitler's rise? Hitler was in government and was jailed for something, but was released, right? Didn't this happen?
He wasn't in government. He was jailed when he was a nobody. He was the beer hall putsch. He was jailed for, it was supposed to be 5 years. I think he got out in 9 months.
Weren't his offenses, wasn't it politically involved somehow, or no? Am I making this up completely?
They tried to coup the government, yeah. They
So he wasn't in government.
They fucking kidnapped the guy. The idea was to march on Berlin and seize the government.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he was arrested for that and put in jail. Didn't they release him early for something?
They released him early, yeah.
Nice, that's good. To show a sign of good faith.
So the thing with the Weimar Republic was, coming out of World War I, people were really sad about the Kaiser abdicating, like monarchists. So as a way to appease the monarchists, they put a lot of the judiciary, which were appointed by the Kaiser directly, they let them stay. And obviously when Hitler tries to coup this government, there's a lot of disdain for the Weimar Republic. So Hitler is treated very softly by the judges because they're all monarchists. And they allowed him to, his opening statement was like 4 hours long. They just let him ramble. They allowed him to bully witnesses. They allowed him to avoid answering questions. And then at the end, they basically said, well, yeah, this was a crime. Normally, you'd be executed for doing this.
So it was
you did it out of love for your country. So they let him get away with it, basically. Yeah.
So he was an insurrectionist.
He was a proper insurrectionist.
And he got to dodge all of his criminal responsibilities.
Yep, treated very nicely by the courts. Yeah.
And then he ran back again, and he knew how to do it better the second time based. The idea that it's just, oh fuck, it's over. 52-48 election, we're completely done. No, it's not completely cooked. I still think that the major driving force for Trump was just all of the cumulative inflation. I think there's an interesting macro argument to be made for maybe inflation needs to be targeted more than unemployment, but that's a different thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I think. But then is that what else is there to do? Because then I feel like, okay, then that's it. Then people are just gonna vote for their vibe, and I
mean that's basically this. You got to fight. You got to have the vibe wars. You got to fight for your vibes.
Have to fight for a better vibe. And do you feel like that? Well, I guess I already asked this kind of. Do you think the Democratic Party as a whole has failed in their vibe check, essentially, or in spreading the right vibes?
In spreading the right vibes, yeah, possibly, yeah, for a variety of reasons, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would blame the Democratic Party or just like liberalism as an institution in general, because liberalism has had issues all throughout Europe as well, especially in the wake of the 2013 Syrian refugee stuff. So I mean, the UK literally ejected itself from the European Union, so there's some issues going on. Yeah.
I feel like that while Trump in terms of picking out lines from lengthy speeches, I think both sides play that game equally hard.
Yeah, but the problem is somebody will pick out, say, the Biden line where he talks about MAGA Americans, and then when you read the speech immediately after, he goes, not all Republicans are MAGA Americans. It's a minority of the party. It's just these people that deny, for instance, the election outcome, right? He'll specify, he'll clarify. Whereas for Trump, you can pick out lines, and these lines are not only consistent with everything else that he says, they're consistent with the policy that he advocates for and tried to pass in government. We're living in two completely and totally separate worlds where the standards for both sides are just out of this world.
So why is it that he may win? After everything that happened in the first term.
I will say, and part of this is the liberal media fault as well. It sucks because on the liberal media, like, you know that you're being hardcore analyzed, and every statement you're making is being gone over with a fine-tooth fucking comb. Meanwhile, Donald Trump like sounds like an actual buffoon when he's in front of all these panels, and he's shameless. Trump will go from interview to interview to the. I watched that full Bloomberg thing where he does that talk in front of the economic
2,000% tariffs or some shit. Yeah.
It's actually like hilarious. It's probably one of the dumbest conversations I've ever heard in my entire life. And I actually went in there thinking that, because people were saying like, well, that was a brutal interview. The guy was brutal. He wasn't brutal. I would have actually critiqued that guy still just as hard as anybody else. But like, you let Trump escape from almost everything. There's zero accountability. But again, it's because the conservative media is wholly 100% united around the party and around Trump as a candidate. So they won't ever attack him, right? Remember, Biden had a really bad debate performance and got ejected from his incumbency. Yep. Donald Trump lost his election and was still worshipped as a fucking god, and then they re-ran him, right? So all these same people that are like, oh, you need to self-reflect, you need to analyze what went wrong. What did you guys do when Trump lost? Oh, well, that's different because it was the deep state that rigged everything. So we're just going to run the exact same candidate again and hope that this time enough good Americans fight against the riggedness. Like, it's actually delusional, right? So endorsed him. I think the reason, part of the messaging for saying that like, well, there's like another Republican Party that could be built, is the issue is that Republicans have no off-ramp from the Trump cult. Because as soon as they off-ramp a little bit, they're called rhinos, and then their careers are eviscerated and they're completely destroyed. That's why everybody has to fall in line. One of the issues too is that there has to be, and everybody's always uncomfortable with this, there has to be a bit of a fan base rebuilding as well. So when you start to rebuild a fan base, or you start to do things, you readjust expectations, you're going to lose some fans, you're going to get some pushback, and I don't think anybody wants to deal with that. Because if they start to be a little bit edgier or a little bit more relatable, then there's going to be people that get mad. You just have to deal with it and tell them to either get the fuck out or adapt, and they will, it'll change. But until you do that, yeah, like, people can tell when you're coming from a place of compassion versus when you're coming from a place of judgment. Yeah. Even if you're saying the exact same thing, like, people can tell. Yeah, and that, like, generally when the left talks to like white men, or in the past, I think it's gotten a bit better over the last like year, but like in the past, it definitely feels like it comes from a place of condescension and derision every time there's a conversation about it. Whereas on the right, even when they say they're saying rough things or hard truths, it always comes from, it feels like it's coming from a very compassionate place, even if they're being mean. Like, you're a fucking loser, but that's because you haven't taken control of your life and you need to do the things you do to empower yourself and blah, blah, blah. Even when they're being quote unquote mean, they're being empowering because it feels like it's coming from a place like, I know you can do better and all this. Yeah.
I chose you because you'll break my heart the most, because you sound somewhat reasonable, intelligent, but you just say the craziest things. And yeah, so now I'm just going to try to figure out for 10 minutes if you really believe it or if you're hardcore just carrying water for some political side.
So, Stephen, my claim is that President Biden should pardon President Trump. No matter who wins the election, President Biden ran on unity. When he came and gave that inauguration speech on January 20th, 2021, he wanted to unify the country. The best way for President Biden to leave office is to pardon President Trump and to try to bring the country together. But I think it would be a very powerful signal for the unity of the country for President Biden to pardon him.
I think there are at least 3 really good reasons why that should absolutely never happen.
Okay.
So the first one is Donald Trump doesn't need to be pardoned because the Supreme Court's already said that the president can enjoy full and absolute criminal immunity when he's doing his job. So if he's already gotten that carve out from the Supreme Court, well, why should he need any more help to be pardoned for any other types of crime? And a lot of the lies that started out in the Trump camp, we know now were completely and wholly fabricated. Everything having to do with that State Farm video was a total lie from the very beginning. Everything having to do with Dominion voting machines was a total lie from the very beginning. There are so many of these claims that when you look at the genesis of them, they were either fabricated or were maliciously constructed.
But doesn't President Biden have an obligation to be a president for all Americans, even those who vehemently disagree with him?
When you say vehemently disagree, yes. But for people that don't believe in the results of the election, this is the issue, is that conservatives have pushed the boundaries of what you can tolerate in a society that can function together, right? If a conservative wants to come out and say, I think that we need small government and I don't believe in the government, providing all this relief and all this or whatever, and I think we should have small government or whatever, okay, I disagree with that, that's fine, whatever. We can still exist together and we can argue, okay? Right. But when people are saying, I'm not, there was a phone call into a radio show where the guy's talking about his father-in-law is turning away FEMA because he thinks that FEMA is going to steal his house. we are breaking down institutions to a point to where we can't function. We need institutions as much as we might hate them. We need them to function, and conservatives spend every breath undermining them, and that is becoming dysfunctional. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that circumstance, and I don't know how we're supposed to function in that environment, right? Where we say like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and pardon Trump. What if we pardon Trump and then he just commits more crimes? Or what if we pardon Trump and then the next Republican president goes, well, I can probably get away with it because they're going to cuck out for unity in the end, so it'll be great, right? What do you do at that point?
Is there one policy, one position that you agree with Donald Trump on, even remotely?
The problem is I just don't like his thought process. So there are going to be things that we agree on, but like we're going to agree on them for totally different reasons.
What's an example of that?
Like in general, I'm not as big on like DEI or affirmative action type stuff. I think for a variety of reasons has a lot of different issues. I think that having a secure border is really important. Arguably one of the most important things about having a country is having a border. I think the Democrats like broadly agree with that as well. I think that yeah, I could probably find other things, but like our agreements are going to be very roundabout. We're not getting here the same way. But
here, I think that the biggest thing for the country going forward, in a sense, is how do we have more debate, not less, more disagreement, not less?
Unfortunately, I totally disagree with you.
Yeah.
I was there a while ago. It's not enough to just have conversations anymore. I think we have to start taking steps in an actual direction. I think right now we are talking ourselves off a ledge. And I notice a lot of times when I have challenging conversations with people, I get all of these comments that pop up, whether it's me talking to Peterson, Shapiro, Owens, of like, what a great civil conversation. But at the end of the day, nobody's mind comes away changed and everybody still feels the same way. And we're still accelerating off of each other faster than we ever have been before. But at least we're having good conversations on the way down to the base of the cliff, I guess.
Well, Donald Trump wins on November 5th. Genuinely, what is one piece of advice you give him?
If Donald Trump wins, what is one piece of advice that you give him? Donald Trump, after he's gone, will have family members that remain in this world that carry his name through the world. He will have a legacy, he'll have a reputation, and that the way that he acts in his last 4 years as president will be remembered for the rest of history, for as long as America continues to exist, and that he has an opportunity in his second term at least to right some of the wrongs of the first term, or to prove people like me wrong at least when I said that the United States would become an authoritarian hellhole or whatever else. That he has an opportunity to prove people like me wrong, and I hope that he would take advantage of that.
I think that'd be great. I think that would be great for the country, to tell you the truth.